voted the best podcast in the world in a tournament we went into in the finals. This is Whacked Out Wrestling. Hello, everybody. This is Whacked Out Wrestling for another surprisingly eventful week of pro wrestling that I completely forgot about until just now it was. I'm Thomas S.K. Green. With me, as always, is Joey the Caveman and John Roche.
What up?
Hey.
And the big news of the week, of course, is the crown jewel finally happening. And this one, the best way to describe this pay-per-view is, I know the Saudi government killed a U.S. citizen in a Turkish embassy and dismembered him on this, but even they didn't deserve a show this bad.
Wow. That's really saying something. I mean, all I can say about, for example, the end result to Lesnar versus Strowman is, I'm thinking WWE is putting their cards on the table and they're thinking that Brock Lesnar will beat Daniel Cormier for the title so they can say in pride they have both the WWE and the UFC champion, trying to merge both shoot and work environments together.
Honestly, even if that's the case on this one, you'd think that Shinsuke Nakamura could go to someone and say, hey, I know this guy called Antonio Inoki. He's saying this might not be a very good idea. Seriously.
Yeah, that's what almost killed New Japan. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying necessarily WWE is going to try to do what New Japan did in the early 2000s. I'm just saying that they're hedging their bets and hoping that Lesnar takes the belt, and maybe that'll make up for the mulligan that happened when CM Punk got beat down by Mike Jackson.
Yeah, but the difference with CM Punk versus Mike Jackson is the fact that if CM Punk, a retired pro wrestler, goes into the octagon and ends up losing and not being very good, it doesn't say anything about this talent of WWE because CM Punk's a retired wrestler, and he wasn't even a wrestler you'd expect to be that good in the octagon beforehand. The most you could expect for CM Punk having any skill in MMA was the claim that he was trained in Muay Thai kickboxing, and that's not that big of a deal for it to really say you'd be good at it. But if it was something like, say, WWE had, for example, AJ Styles go into a UFC match and AJ Styles got clobbered, then WWE would be doomed. That's the difference that happened that killed New Japan when Inoki loved MMA. He just put all the top stars in New Japan and MMA, and when most of them, understandably, got clobbered, he lost most of their draw value because no one bought him again. And when they had guys who were jobbers who ended up doing pretty well in MMA, suddenly that led to people that no one in pro wrestling bought as stars. So what happens if, say, Brock Lesnar gets destroyed by Cormier, and then something like, say, for example, Arya Daivari happens to win a few matches in MMA if he tries on it, and suddenly Arya Daivari's the champion.
That could happen, but I mean, I don't know what Daivari's background is. Does he have a legit shoot background? I mean, Dolph Ziggler was Kent State's winningest wrestler. Mm-hmm. Nakamura has MMA experience.
Yeah,
Danielson has grappling experience.
Yeah.
AJ Styles is an amateur wrestler. I mean, see, you want to play that card, you want to go on that subject. I mean, and considering the Performance Center is taking legit athletes, I'm saying if you want to play that card, you got to look at all angles.
Yeah, but I was just using someone as an example for, say the way it worked in New Japan for that one, where you have some jobber in the WWE, not against Daivari's skills because I think he's very solid in the ring, but he happens to do really well in MMA, and suddenly they decide he's doing so well in MMA, let's give him the world title. And it just doesn't work.
Right. Okay, I get you. I'm interested in this. I think that's got to be the only reason why they put it on Lesnar, because it makes zero sense to have him the champ again when he barely shows up. What I'm thinking though is Survivor Series Styles versus Lesnar. I'm thinking AJ will get his win back.
Yeah, honestly, that would be
I
weird.
love that promo he cut on SmackDown.
Because apparently after Crown Jewel, it was announced that Lesnar has had 2 matches added to his one match against Styles at Survivor Series, and either a Royal Rumble or a WrestleMania match against Braun Strowman. And there's 2 minds of thought on this one, where thought 1, okay, they're trying to build up and prep Braun Strowman to be the next big guy on it, and they need a few months to give him his momentum back, which is perfectly viable. But given how WWE's been, there's just this nagging thought in my mind that thinks, oh crap, they gave Brock Lesnar the WWE title back. They're going to have Lesnar keep the title for the duration of the time that Roman Reigns is undergoing his treatment for leukemia. And when Roman comes back, he's going to beat Lesnar again.
Or there was I think there was a report that came out that I can't remember if you told me or if I read a report, but allegedly the Saudi prince who bought all those shows, he wants to have The Rock as the champ for one of those shows. So maybe we might just get The Rock beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I'm not saying that that's better, but if you're going to play that card again.
Mm-hmm. Well, honestly, I think that The Rock would be a case where there's a chance that that could be the option, but at the same time, we saw John Cena pull out of Crown Jewel, citing the fact that Cena had a reputation in legitimate entertainment to think of, and he couldn't exactly pal around with the Saudi government because of this one. And
Right.
that's John Cena, who's a very good character actor and someone who's just a C-lister at best in Hollywood. The Rock is the biggest movie star on the planet today. You are not getting The Rock into a Saudi show at this point in time because he'd lose everything. Shit, people want The Rock to be president in 2020, and they don't even know that The Rock is a Republican.
You're calling The Rock the biggest movie star?
Yes. And
over Clooney? Over Clooney?
Honestly, yes, because Clooney's a good movie star on this one, and he's a good director on it, but The Rock is one of the only movie stars out there right now where you can get a shitty script like San Andreas, Rampage, or Skyscraper, and still make that a good movie solely based on it's Dwayne Johnson and he's doing stuff. That's the level of rarefied movie star that The Rock is right now.
What about Mark Wahlberg right now?
Well, considering that John Cena ate him, that doesn't mean he's that great a movie star on it, so there's that problem. But as far as action stars, I think it's safe to say that Dwayne Johnson has the conch shell.
Okay, if you're talking about action stars, yeah, I can see him being the #1 action star right now. I mean, who's his competition? Vin Diesel?
Well, I think that
Jason Statham.
I think The Rock's competition is pretty much maybe Jason Statham. Is basically still at the top of action stars because he's the guy from the Fast and the Furious, and the Fast and the Furious is a big one, which is the same reason I wouldn't totally say any of the Marvel movie stars are one of the biggest ones, because they're big stars as their Marvel character, but they're not. You wouldn't go see a movie say it's Chris Evans doing this, or it's Chris Hemsworth doing this, or something like that. You'd only see them as Captain America or as Thor.
Right. Okay. You make a pretty good argument for The Rock.
They're actually the next Fast and the Furious related film is going to be it's going to be a spinoff with Dwayne Johnson again and Jason Statham.
What's it going to be called?
Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw. So that'll be Fast and Furious, what, 8?
I think 9, actually.
9?
Yeah.
Who would have thought there'd be 9 of those movies when the first one came out in 2001?
Honestly, it's kind of weird because it wouldn't. You could get something basically a Point Break with street racing, like the first 2 movies. But I thought after Tokyo Drift was okay and it's just a movie about drifting, I thought the series was ended there. But
yeah, me too.
To Ocean's 11 with street racing, that's a pretty good movie thing.
When did Initial D come out, the anime? 1989? That's basically Fast and Furious.
So.
What?
1990s, so.
Okay, so that everyone talks about
Initial D came out in 95. The anime came out in 98. Well,
I think 89.
Well, because it was built around an 86 Truno, so it seems like 86, but the whole point of it is that he's doing such great things on street racing with a 1986 car, so.
So could Fast and the Furious be like the live-action movie version of Initial D?
I think that would be close enough to Tokyo Drift, but I wouldn't say it for the full Fast and the Furious thing because all of Initial D was based on look at us, look at these street racers and how good they are.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I love the scenery of Tokyo Drift, but yeah, I thought that would have ended the series. And then, wasn't it the next one they came back with the original stars, and then it just gained momentum from there?
Yeah. And honestly, that's really the big one on it, because if you wonder if Dwayne Johnson's in this thing, it really leveled up once Dwayne Johnson entered the Fast and the Furious movies with Fast 5, so.
Well, hell, and I mean, he's good at comedy, too. Look at Pain and Gain, and look at, what was that movie where he's a CIA agent that came out not too long ago?
Well, yeah, but we also knew that Dwayne Johnson would be good at comedy because even if you look at what The Rock does on Botchamania things and how he reacts to them, I've always been steadfast that of my high list of actors who are not comedians who I'd love to see on Whose Line Is It Anyway, there's no doubt in my mind The Rock would kill on that show.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Did you fart?
No, I just got up from my chair to get this coffee, so.
Oh, your chair farted. Okay. But anyway, okay, so looking at Crown Jewel, we had Brock beat Braun after like 6 F5s on top of Corbin decided to be a dick and attack him. We had AJ beat Samoa Joe. We had Becky Lynch retain her title.
No, Becky Lynch couldn't retain it. Remember, it's Crown Jewel.
Oh, right. My bad.
Besides,
well, technically she did retain.
Is the fact that now, if you may not have noticed, Whacked Out Wrestling is kind of a comedy podcast for these things. We're a podcast that keeps it lighthearted and keeps jokes about wrestling. So, with that in mind, I'm going to say the biggest joke, the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in pro wrestling. Shane McMahon is the best in the world in WWE kayfabe.
Whose bright idea was that whose bright idea was that? I mean, if I was booking this, bitch boy Bobby should have won the fucking thing, and that would have made the most sense, giving him momentum and having Leo Rush, saying, "Hey, he's the best in the world. He beat all these other guys." Lashley. That's the logical booking. Why give it to Shane, who eerily enough now looks exactly like his old man? He took his shirt off, and I'm thinking, this guy got on the same stuff as Vince did.
Yeah.
He looks just like his father now.
Even with that one, it's always gone past it where you have them talking about the skills of all 8 of the competitors in this one, and then you have Bill Simmons on a PED plan is the best in the world.
Right? I mean, he ain't the best in the world until if Shane's the best in the world, he needs to beat the following wrestlers: CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, aka American Dragon, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, what the hell? We're gonna throw in Jeff Cobb, even though he's nowhere near that level. But I'd love to see Jeff Cobb throw him around like a rag doll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shane would bump like a fucking pinball for him.
Well, you've got to also imagine what makes Shane McMahon the best in the world. Think about those punches he has. The best punches in it.
Okay, I know you're joking.
I fight like I'm a hockey fighter in things with it.
Okay, I know you're joking, but okay, in all seriousness, I will give Shane credit for, he does bump for people and sell people well and get people over. But, and he also actually has some good punches. I like his punching, how it looks like he's boxing, legit boxing. He actually has some good punches. And I mean, he does a pretty decent Van Terminator. And oh shit, this is just like the episode of Family Guy where they were talking shit about Barry Manilow, and then they're like, oh, he had this song and that song. This is exactly like that, isn't it?
I love Barry Manilow. Ready to take a chance again
at the Copacabana. The hottest spot north of Havana. Hey, Colt Cabana, if Colt Cabana can sing it, or if Colt Cabana can have it as a theme, why not?
Yeah.
Hey, who's that?
Also
commercial? Somebody help me out here. I seen this commercial that has an old song that goes, I gotta be me, don't you know? You know that song? Is that Bing Crosby or Frank Sinatra?
I don't know if it was Crosby or Sinatra, but I'm pretty sure it was one of the two. So,
song's catchy as hell.
Yeah.
I was watching that commercial, and then I was watching a commercial with my mom, and I all of a sudden started crooning the song to him. My mom's like, "Oh God," but all in fun. Anyway,
But yeah, but back to that one. Even if you have the cases for it, the fact that it was just a random move just doesn't make sense for this one, because you also have the theory that Shane McMahon's turning heel for it, which I heard for a lot of these cases, but then you don't have SmackDown and no sign of his heel turn.
Yeah, it was funny having the Miz and Daniel Bryan act as co-captains and actually agreeing with each other, and then the whole weird that was kind of cute what happened there. But so we know on the SmackDown squad we got Danielson, Miz, Shane, Samoa Joe, and Ray. And on the Raw side so far we've got Strowman, Ziggler, and McIntyre.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, very interesting ending to Raw when we talk about that, when we get to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those cases where it's hard to watch on weeks when you know they're in the UK because all the spoilers get out too early, you know?
Right. I didn't read the spoilers. I just, went into it like virgin eyes.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, I do know the problem on this one was when Snape killed Dumbledore on Raw, it was a big problem there, so.
Yeah. But,
about as big on SmackDown when Rosebud was his sled.
Right. Well, I mean, if we're gonna go there, I mean, are we gonna talk about Raw? Or are we gonna go jump right to the main event?
Ground where it turns out that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father.
Yeah, can't really. Got to really question those ones. So.
James Earl Jones had a cool voice. Who was the white guy that played Darth Vader though?
David Prowse was the guy who walked around in the suit all the time, and Sebastian Shaw was the guy whose face it was, I think.
Who was the guy that was walking around the suit all the time?
David Prowse.
Oh, British guy. I remember that.
Yeah. I thought it was Hayden Christensen. I mean, I saw him in the video in this end when I watched it the first time.
Oh. When does the final Star Wars come out? Next year?
I think that the final Star Wars, from all claims from Disney when they bought LucasArts, said no one who's alive now will see the final Star Wars movie. So
Well, I mean,
Challenge accepted.
That. Like, there was episode 7 and 8. When is 9 coming out? This year or next?
I think
I'm guessing next.
I'm pretty sure that Solo was this year's Star Wars movie.
Okay. Fair enough.
And that was just another one of the battle between Star Wars' fans and Star Wars' producers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the weird thing is I never was a Star Wars or a Star Trek fan, even though I'm big into anime. Go figure that one out.
Well, I don't know on these ones because if you think about it, Star Wars was very similar to anime. It was a space drama. It had people on both sides of this coin having good stories and being great heroes.
The argument.
And it had brother-sister incest, which is always big in anime, so...
What did you say?
And it had brother-sister incest, which anime loves, so...
Figures you would talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Figures.
Roll Tide!
Well, they said the British family once upon a time kept it, had a lot of incest. The royal family did to keep the bloodline pure, so figure that one out.
Yep.
You think that's bad? You should see Spanish royal family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Look up Charles II.
What happened, Roach?
Charles II.
Was he
Spain.
so inbred he couldn't chew his own food?
Yeah.
Oh hell. So I guess we're now shit talking international royal families tonight, huh?
Well, it's not just that he was that inbred. He was so inbred that he could not sire an heir.
Mm-hmm.
And that resulted in the War of the Spanish Succession.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice knowledge of history, Roach.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Meanwhile, in similar Spanish news, Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead.
Was he a descendant of James Franco's? Is James Franco a descendant of that guy?
I believe he might be.
Well, I know James Franco is he's got Russian, Swedish, Jewish, and something else in his bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows?
Yep, and let me get the results of SmackDown and Raw as well for it. So,
right on.
Portuguese.
Yeah.
Portuguese, yeah. Franco has Portuguese too.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, back to SmackDown and Raw.
Yep, and let's see now. Still trying to get through these, and the big problem on this one is, again, there was the spoilers this week because it was Raw.
Okay, I know what I want to talk about on Raw. What the hell was that ending to the women's six-man tag match?
Apparently, it was just simply perfectly normal, where you have a battle to try and get on this Survivor Series team, which the last 2 years have proven is one of the biggest goals of any wrestler on the men's or women's roster, and it could completely dissipate over someone breaking your sunglasses.
Well, I mean, I didn't have a problem with that spot. I just had a problem with it ending with Natty breaking down and crying. She should have just, instead of breaking down crying, she should have just snapped and beat the ever-living piss out of Ruby Riott to the point where Bayley and Sasha had to pull her off. And I mean, there was rumors of her turning heel on Ronda Rousey before the Anvil died. So I mean, if you want to revisit a heel turn, there you go. You could have had Natalya freak out, like beat the crap out of Ruby Riott to the point where she was injured, and next week she could be in a neck vice or whatever, and now Natalya's snapped and is dangerous. Basically, what I'm saying is you could make her like a female version of Ken Shamrock.
She's got plenty of gas in the tank.
Yeah. Well, I see what you did there. So, but yeah, the problem with Natalya turning heel is that it's a double whammy of this one, where on the one hand you have Jim Neidhart's death making it hard to make Natalya a heel on paper, and on the other side of it, if Natalya turned heel, it would inherently be part of, we need to bring Ronda Rousey along a bit more, so we're going to have her be trained in the ring by her trainer outside of it and just learn to work on the road. But Ronda Rousey's been amazing. She's exceeded all expectations you'd have of someone doing this early in her career. So do you need her to fight Natalya anymore?
Well, no, I mean, you don't have to really right away go to Natalya versus Rousey. Just have Natalya, you know, be psycho and just beat the shit. Have her injure all the Riot Squad. Mm-hmm. And, you know, then, you know, then go after Sasha and Bayley. You know, basically make her like a rabid animal.
Yeah. Well, the problem on it is the fact that
fucking break down and cry and stop a match.
Yeah. The big problem with Natalya is the fact that if she's going to be a big star on Raw for a Rousey feud on it, that's pretty much the only reason you'd have her in the main event scene on it, because Natalya's at the point where she is what she is, and that's all that she is. She's not going to be that. She's good. She can still go in the ring, but she's not going to be that much better than she already is. We saw it last year on SmackDown where you could try and push her as a threat, try and push her as a top heel, but she's just Natalya. That's all she is.
Okay, be fair about this. Like, how long was Bradshaw in the WWF/E before he became JBL? How long?
On the other hand, when did they actually try to push JBL until he was JBL? For the most part,
the APA.
Yeah, but the APA was just a tag team wrestler. You had the run where he was Man from Texas.
You had the run where he was Taka's best friend for a minute.
Yeah, and basically he was always
an underrated time for Bradshaw. He was funny. Him and Taka were funny together.
Yeah, well, Bradshaw's always been a pretty underrated wrestler, but they never truly went the extra mile with him until he became JBL. So it's a little bit different than Natalya because she hasn't just been underutilized or overlooked for a while. She's always been in the thick of things, and sometimes even at the top. So it's not like they don't use her.
Right.
Right.
So really, it is a little bit different where you have that, and you also have with Bradshaw, he was basically just a cowboy and a fun-loving, beer-drinking cowboy. And in 2004, you could turn that into a George W. Bush pastiche pretty well and get a top heel out of that. But with Natalya, she's basically Bret Hart's niece, and there's not much else you can go from there except she's a Hart. She's the last member of the Hart dynasty, of the Hart Dungeon, and that's basically what she is.
Tyson Kidd, Harry, Davey Boy Smith Jr., Teddy, I think, was trained there too, but for storyline purposes in the WWE, I see the point.
Yeah. Plus, even if we know that Tyson Kidd's probably never going to wrestle again. We know that Teddy Hart will probably never be signed by WWE again. And by all signs, points and purposes, it looks like Davey Boy Smith Jr. is just doing better outside the WWE, and he's never quite made it to that level on the indie scene where you know WWE will do anything to get this guy back in the fold.
I get what you're saying. I mean, he isn't there yet. Yet, I mean, would anyone bitch and moan if New Japan suddenly strapped a rocket to him and said, let's push this guy as the champ?
Honestly, I think that's the problem because Davey Boy Smith Jr. is good, but he means more to World of Sport than he'd ever mean to New Japan or WWE in this one. The only way you'd say that WWE should sign him is if you really, really want to hurt World of Sport by taking the biggest star in the UK out of the picture.
Is there any World of Sport? Is there any of the new World of Sport on YouTube at all?
I don't know if it's on YouTube yet on it, but all signs from people in England say that the new World of Sport is terrible. So,
well, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing some of it, making a judgment for myself. But
yeah,
I mean, there's stuff that people said were terrible I actually like. There's stuff that people loved I hate. So
Yeah, so it is probably viable on it, but there is also the case where from what I've said, there's a few good talents in the new world of sports. So
isn't Grado that?
Yeah, he's actually tag partners with Davey or with Harry Smith.
No shit.
Yeah, and he was the first world of sport champion as well, since he's basically the equivalent to Big Daddy or Giant Haystacks in the era.
Oh, absolutely. So, is Joe Henry there too in World of Sport?
I think
he is.
Might be, because I think, yeah, World of Sport is pretty much allied with Impact, so I'd say that a lot of the big stars that would be there.
Yeah, and their apparently their on-air authority figure is once again Wade Barrett.
Wade Barrett's the authority figure there?
Yeah, well, under his real name, but yeah.
I like it. You're not giving me any reasons to not want to watch it. You're giving me reasons actually to want to watch it more.
Yeah, I'm looking on YouTube right now, but it's all the older World of Sport, none of the current day World of Sport.
Well, that's not bad either. I mean, that's not bad either. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm bored, I watch some of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I like the old World of Sport too. I'm just saying that it's not what we're talking about. So
right.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, following up on Raw, we had the women's tag match. I believe we had the main event we had Corbin running for his life against Braun Strowman, which was funny skits.
Mm-hmm.
We had Elias we had Ziggler cut a passionate promo only to lead to Elias coming out talking shit and beating Dolph Ziggler, which I don't think made any sense at all.
Yeah, and that's really the problem on this one, where Dolph Ziggler's kind of weird on this, where what are you doing there? Are you trying to make him a main event player finally, or are you trying
to find a 5-year deal? So I mean, you got me.
Yeah, because Elias, like I said, I'm still not convinced of him as a baby face anymore, where it seems like the best he can do is Mr. Kennedy or something like that, where in that same, he's much better as a heel than he is as a baby face.
Look at this guy's win-loss record. Is it just me, or is he the most protected guy in WWE today?
I think it's possible. So
he wins.
You're talking about Ziggler or Elias?
Loses.
Mm-hmm. Ziggler or Elias? Did you talk about?
Elias.
It's viable, but at the same time, there's also that case where Elias rarely wrestles that often. So,
but when he does, he wins. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. He just seems to be the most protected guy on Raw right now, or they're slow burning him for something. What? I don't know. I mean, I always thought that he's kind of like today's version of the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah. And that's really a good thing on it, where that's what I said as well, where it's obvious that Elias is the version of the Honky Tonk Man, but at the same time, why the hell do you make that guy a baby face?
Quick note, speaking of older wrestlers, apparently Steve Austin is no longer drinking, so.
Oh, it's like the Sandman quitting smoking, but still smoking on shows, except what? Does he smoke like herbal cigarettes instead or some shit?
I don't know off the top of my head on them. So.
God help us all if he decides to start vaping.
Well, is that guy Shockwave the Robot in the Northeast Indies, so if Sandman decided that he was going to do the thing to make it look like he's deleting a robot, there'd be a storyline there.
Right. Meanwhile, my state just passed an amendment to ban vaping in indoor workplaces, so...
Yeah, I heard it went along with some sort of ban on offshore drilling, which...
Right, that happened to me. What?
I heard it went along with the ban on offshore drilling, so that's a hell of a combination.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah, Flex mic went off.
Yeah, I was just trying to do this because it sounded like we were going for water, so.
Yeah, you kind of still sound like that, sort of, but I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, that's just a normal thing when the sound slows down, so.
When the what?
Sound slows down, so.
Oh, how do I sound?
Same way on mine, so. And so
I sound like I'm underwater?
Yeah.
Roach, do I sound like I'm underwater on your end?
Not on my end, no, but
okay, you sound clear.
Yeah, on my end, so.
Okay.
And naturally, right when we get a viewer, because and it's gone, so that always works. So.
Oh.
Condolences to whoever decided to tune in.
Yeah. But yeah, it was weird on it where I was just trying to get some things off these ones for Joey on these ones, and suddenly the sound started to break up. So.
Anyway, Bitch Boy Bobby beat Finn Balor
again, I guess.
Authors of Pain beat Seth Rollins, and that was an interesting match. I mean, I was watching that match too. I was watching that match chewing my nails because I thought, no, they are not going to have Rollins go over AOP, and I was about to flip out on the TV and say, this is ridiculous booking when AOP finally made the world right and won the belts. But interesting how Ambrose came out basically looking like Ambrose is starting to morph into how he looked as John Moxley, if you noticed.
Yeah.
On the indie scene, and Ambrose like, you want to know why I did what I did? Then does the dirty deeds and just walks off. So I'm wondering where they're going from there. This is so far reminding me of when Barry Windham was asked about Ric Flair in WCW and kept walking away back in the mid-90s.
Yeah, and that's really a weird thing as well, because honestly, I liked the Authors of Pain winning the belts here, because the biggest problem with Raw for the last few weeks has been the fact that you've just had all the titles inside the main event feud between Shield and Dogs of War. And
right.
That was why the B team worked so well as the champions, because the show was just more opened up there. You need to have titles outside of one storyline, just so that if you're not interested in that one storyline, you can focus on this. And now that means that at least you're going to have the Authors of Pain with something that's a separate storyline for people who aren't interested in the Shield stuff. And that's perfectly viable. Even if I'm just not feeling the Bobby Roode and Chad Gable team for it, it just seems like a pretty good storyline to go with.
Or B team get a repush B team versus AOP. Of course, they stick the Revival with the Lucha Party.
Yeah, but even that works perfectly fine because the Revival are a good team. The Lucha House Party are a good team. So.
Oh no, absolutely, it's a good thing. I just wish they would. I wish they would put the belts on the Revival. Maybe they will sooner or later. Maybe they won't. But if they won't, I think the Revival will go down in the history as the most missed opportunity. Hello?
Yeah, I could see that. Oh, also, right now on Impact is a match between Johnny Impact and Killer Cross.
Kevin Killer Cross. I wonder
if why I said Chris Cross.
No, I usually call him Kevin Killer Cross because he started out as Kevin Cross and
then he became Killer Cross.
Yeah. You know what? I'd actually put. You know what? I know the shows were taped, but I haven't read the spoilers. I would actually put the belt on Killer Cross. He could be a good champion.
He could probably be pretty dominant.
I mean, I see. I've been a big Killer Cross fan. I mean, I see this guy. This guy could really blow up and be huge, whether it's an Impact, Japan, or WWE, or I love his Lucha Underground White Rabbit gimmick. And Roach, while you're here, I mean, do we know when season 5 starts of Lucha Underground?
I honestly haven't heard anything. I mean, it might be a while. I think, wasn't there like a huge gap between when season 3 aired and when season 4 aired?
But that was because of funding. That was because of funding and getting the contracts worked out. But they've got the contracts worked out now, and where people can work different shows with Lucha Underground. Just a matter of everyone coming together. So it might not be as long of a wait as last time.
Right, because I know that like the break between seasons 1 and 2 was from like early August to late January, so that wasn't that long. And then season 2 to season 3 was mid-July to early September, and then of the same year even. And then Lucha Underground season 3 ended October 18th of last year and started June 13th, 2018.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Hold on 1 second. I'm getting orders on Skype, so something's weird on my end. So,
Broach, how do I sound on your end?
You sound fine. You sound fine on my end, but then I'm hearing like another one from Tom.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. Do you want to take an intermission and try to fix this?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's play the song of the week. I'm going to try something. So.
Okay,
Right.
hopefully it'll come in. Hopefully it'll come in clear. This is a Swedish band, fresh from Sweden. Song just came out last year, but it has tinges of old '80s album-oriented rock AOR. Here's Cray with the song "Straight to the Top."
And Johnny Impact retains. Okay.
All right, that was Cray, a Swedish band that has just come out in the last couple of years with their hit song, at least in my mind, "Straight to the Top."
That was a pretty good song.
Very good song. It has that tinge of 80s AOR. I mean, it's good to see new bands keeping that sound alive. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
So,
it looks like after the Lashley Bauer match, Drew teased like he was going to help up